There they are already talking. Lemieux and McCarthy.
Hi guys, Howzit? Welcome trek allemaal to my Afrikaans-speaking followers, and thank you guys for tuning in to another video. Yes, I know you guys are looking at me. You're like, what the bloody hell is this guy wearing? Well, you see the title of the video, and this is what we're going to be discussing today on this channel. Courtney Lawes, former international, had done an article in the South African. I will leave the article underneath the description of the video. You guys can go read it. Not necessarily calling for fighting in rugby a la ice hockey, but for allowing scraps to continue. And I thought, hey, here is a moment for me to kind of give the history of fighting in ice hockey, an abridged version of it. Obviously, for any of you guys who've been longtime followers of me, you know my background is way deeper in the sport of ice hockey than it ever was in rugby. I enjoy talking about rugby because I don't know everything about it. I like talking about hockey, but I do know a lot more about it than I do about rugby. But I think this would be kind of an entertaining moment for you guys to kind of see and hear about a sport that maybe you just don't commonly really hear about too much, being that a lot of you come from warmer weather climates or places that are not close to Scandinavia or the United States, because, you know, obviously we have ice hockey here at all levels from juniors to professional. And believe it or not, some of you guys, you followers, I could have put on an Ice Blacks jersey or a Botany Swarm jersey. Yes, Kiwis, you have your own hockey league, the NZIHL. You have 3 teams playing in Auckland. You have the Auckland Mako, you have the West Auckland Admirals, and you have the Botany Swarm. You also have a team in Queenstown and a team in Canterbury and a team in Dunedin. That's for my Kiwi followers. And then you have Australia has a professional league. And then in South Africa, you have regional leagues. Western Province, Gauteng, they all have their own little leagues. And you do have a national ice hockey program in South Africa, the Rhinos. Put a picture up right here so you guys can kind of see. That's your squad for South Africa. I do follow those guys on social media. And I thought, hey, let's get into this. Let's kind of sit down and kind of talk about the history of fighting and hockey. And then we'll get into the article a bit more and my feelings on it. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to get in a time machine. We're going to go back to the late 60s, early 70s, the Philadelphia Flyers, an expansion franchise in the National Hockey League in 1967, ends up going on a brutal run for like 4 years, making the finals straight. And why did they do that? How did they do it? What was the key? It was the Broad Street Bullies, okay? For those of you guys who are like, hey, man, what would be a good description? The Springboks, if they were an ice hockey team, it would be the Broad Street Bullies. These guys would fuck you up physically and then score a goal and win the game. I do recall somebody told me a story. They ended up playing the Soviet Union era team. This was the USSR. This is when they were peak USSR ice hockey program. And I think they threw the white flag in the second period because they were just getting beat the shit up by these Philadelphia guys. And you know, that kind of thing kind of continued through to the 70s and the 80s. And then you got into the 80s, and we all got to see, any of us that were alive. And if you don't know anything about the game of hockey, you obviously know who the gentleman is that is popping up right now here. Yes, that is number 99 himself, Wayne Gretzky, the Ontario native, breaks every single scoring record in hockey history. Most goals in a season, most assists in a season, most goals in a career. Now, I do understand that currently there is a player that is chasing that, currently playing in the Hockey League. We will get to that in a little bit. But Wayne wasn't the biggest guy on the ice. As a matter of fact, he'd been playing above his age grade for most of his life, so he was used to wearing oversized jerseys and tucking it into the left side of the shorts. The thing that made Wayne Gretzky so good was he knew how to dance with the puck. a lot of guys, kind of like in rugby, you know, do you control the ball or do you let the ball control you? Wayne Gretzky followed the puck. He didn't try to, it was like a dance to him, and the puck was the lead. And that's what made him such a magical goal scorer in his career. But also, he didn't have to worry about getting injured. And the reason he did not is because of gentlemen like this right here. This is Marty McSorley. And you also had another gentleman by the name of Mark Messier. Okay. Marty McSorley, more so than Messier, was an enforcer. If you touched Gretzky, you had to deal with him. If you gave him a quick little pop, slap with the stick, you had to deal with him. Yeah. And he was going to fuck you up. It was so bad that when a king's ransom, that's what they called it, was paid for Wayne Gretzky to go to Los Angeles Kings in the late 80s, early 90s, after a season, he was like, look, guys, I need help. So they traded for Marty McSorley to come to Los Angeles because Wayne needed him. It's hard to score goals when guys are fucking with you. When nobody's fucking with you, you can break every scoring record imaginable. And he did that. And he did that well. Then you had guys like, I could go into so many, Joey Kocur, okay? Guys like Bob Probert. These were guys that were just notorious for this. Dave Semensky. You get kind of the current era, some guys, and then you get guys like Chris Knuckles Nyland from Charlestown, Massachusetts. Thickest Boston accent, played most of his career with the Habs up in Montreal and Canada, and this guy could fight, but he could also score goals. But he was a fighter. These guys existed at that time in hockey history because you needed them to protect your scoring players, your high-skill scoring players. You didn't touch those guys because you had to deal with these guys. These were the guys that were enforcers. These were the Bucky Split of hockey. These were the Ebenezabeth of hockey. You didn't want to mess with your star players because you had to deal with these guys. And it kept going, man. You had, you know, guys like Tony Twist in the 90s. You had, I could keep going forever, but guys like George Larac here, the French Canadian from Montreal as well. And I guess he wrote a book saying the nicest guy you'd never want to fight. He's actually a super nice guy. He's a vegan now. I think his parents were Haitian or maybe from Barbados or whatnot. But he grew up in Canada, and he was a fighter as well. Now, a couple of these guys, you get guys like Mark Messier, like I'd mentioned earlier, guys like Tony Amonte, guys like Eric Lindros. These were guys that could fuck you up, but they could also score goals at the same time. And you kind of still see that in the league now with the likes of like Phil Kessel, Jamie Benn, who is the Dallas Stars captain, would be another. They're called power forwards. But the old guard, man, it's pretty much gone at this point. You don't really see these guys anymore. There's a few, you see them kind of very rarely. And I guess the reason I say that you see them so rarely is you have somebody the likes of Sidney Crosby, who plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who missed a pretty good chunk of his career from injuries. Why? Because he didn't have anybody to protect them. If you say you watch hockey for fights, you probably don't watch the NHL too much anymore. The era of these guys it's pretty much done. Now, if you watch lower league, like minor league hockey, leagues like the Federal Prospects Hockey, we call it the FedZino, the SPHL, you're going to see a lot more fighting at that level. Now, as far as fighting in hockey goes, usually at the youth local level, there is no fighting. When you get into juniors, junior B, junior A, or tier 2, tier 3 hockey here in the U.S., you do see a tendency to see a bit more fighting. Now, the issue I have with that is you can't fight at the collegiate level in hockey. There's no fighting in college hockey. If you fight, you're done. Like, you're suspended for games. So do I think they should be allowing 17 to 20-year-olds to fight in junior hockey? No, I really don't, because it's not really going to get you anywhere. And especially with the way the league is going, fighting does it have a place? It pains me to say this, being a lifelong hockey fan, but it's definitely, it's losing its place very, very rapidly, unfortunately. But it's always been immortalized in films. I'm going to play a clip. One of my favorite films. If you guys have never seen this movie's called Slapshot. It stars Paul Newman. It's about a minor league hockey team from Charlestown, Massachusetts. And if you ever played any type of minor league hockey, you've watched this movie and you've at least quoted some of these lines. Let me kind of set up the scene here. They had made a trade for these three brothers called the Hansons. They hadn't gotten a lot of ice time yet because he needed to reshuffle some guys that were still new to the team. A guy gets injured. He says, hey, boys, let me see what you got. And they proceed to go out on the ice and just fuck everyone up. And it's comedic, but was the truth because that's what hockey was like back then. This was before I was even born. But enjoy the clip. I'll be quiet here while it's playing.
Okay, guys.
And
show us what you got.
If you guys ever care to watch the movie, I'm actually going to play it on my phone here so I know when I can talk again. Here we go. The Hansons. Back when I didn't have to wear a helmet to play hockey. Yeah, that's not a penalty, guys. That would be a penalty. So you get the gist of it right there. Yes, those three actors were actually hockey players. They two of them were actually related, and then the third brother had gotten called up, so he couldn't be in the movie. So it's like, yeah. But they're the Hansons. I've met them in person. I have an autograph photo somewhere here in my closet. But if you're ever interested in watching that movie, the movie is called Slapshot. It is absolutely hilarious. Like, very hilarious. And apparently Paul Newman said it was one of his favorite movies to do because he had to learn how to skate to do the movie. And it was it's just a hilarious film. Emmett Walsh is in it. He's still alive. He's an actor. And there's just, like I said, there's a bunch of bits with like the French-Canadian hockey players and language barrier and maybe lost in translation a bit. But check it out. It's really hilarious. But yeah, that kind of shows you the old guard of ice hockey. It's not like that anymore, unfortunately. For me, I think it's for the best because we just don't have that mentality in the game anymore. So moving on to what the article said, obviously he did not say bring fighting into hockey or bring fighting into rugby, okay? But to allow scraps to happen. Now, we've all seen it. I mean, we all know Eben's face very, very well when he is pissed. The eyes get wide. He grabs it. This is him and the Alan Alatoa incident. And you know what? Personally, do I think there's a problem with this in rugby? No, I don't. No. We use the TMO for damn near everything anymore. You have some scraps like this, let the TMO watch. If he doesn't see any punches thrown, bring him over to the ref. Say, hey, boys, are we done? Is this settled? Can we finish the game? Let's conclude. If I see anything else, somebody's getting sent off. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I don't think that this has to be in every game for it to be entertaining, but when it does happen, it is very entertaining. It kind of goes back to the old thought, and I was discussing it with one of my followers, and it's the difference in the game, okay? I think in a lot of the ways the players have gotten softer, but for a reason. Case in point, Joel Stransky and Andre Pollard. Who's the better rugby player? It's Andre Pollard, because this is what he does for a living, and he has for a long time now. Who would you rather have in a fight behind you? Joel Stransky. Hands down. Different era. Amateur. He had a day job. You know, a lot of those guys back in the day with the Springboks were farmers. They were boers. They were big Afrikaner boer guys. You know, and not to say that you don't still have that. Like Peter Steph-Toy, Eben, Damien Dialende. He went to Milnerton. Okay, I don't care what you say. I've heard that people that go to Milnerton are tough as nails. Austin Bottom even told me that one. But yeah, we still have those tough guys, but like Baki Sputa. Bakis wouldn't make it in rugby now. He was a little too dirty. Too many cameras. Too much bullshit. The bunker system. I don't want to get into a whole conversation about rules. They shouldn't have instituted it so late. I mean, I think the first game was us versus Australia in the Rugby Championship. You need to have that at least 6 months before a World Cup. I feel like there were way too many questionable calls of the bunker system. Now, I might piss off some Kiwi fans with what I'm about to say. No, Sam Cane and Sia Khaleesi, that was not the same thing. You go and read the rule book. That was not the same thing. Sam Cane was a red card, Sia was a yellow. It is what it is. But I feel like we've begun to use the bunker system. And do I like it? Not really, man. I feel like we're giving too much control of the game to the TMO. But if we're going to allow scraps to happen, by all means, keep the TMO. He can keep it clean. Was there any punches thrown in that scrap? Was it just dudes grabbing each other by their jerseys and yelling at each other and making threats? If that's all it was, sit them down, bring them down to the ref, say, boys, is this over? Are we done? Are we going to see any more of this? Okay, good. We'll finish the game. If I see anything else, you're getting sent off. It'd be as simple as that. Because we all know how it's going to end. It's going to end with them having a beer with each other after the game. It always does. It always does. It always does. So do I think this needs to be allowed in? Of course. 100%. 100%. Now, there's going to be the guys that take it too far. And if they take it too far, the card will be brought out. But grabbing each other's shirt, yelling and making threats, let them do it. It gets people riled up. I'm not saying let it go on for 10 minutes, but let them do it. Separate them. Bring the two guilty parties over. Say, hey, like I said, boys, is this going to happen anymore in the game? Okay, can we finish the game? Yes. Okay, if anything else happens, I'm sending you off. I'm thinking in my mind like Wayne Barnes or Nigel Owens saying that because, you know, they would say something like that. But, yeah, I don't think I think the articles have been a clickbait, obviously, bringing ice hockey. This really has nothing to do with ice hockey. I just felt like talking about hockey for a minute with you guys because it is my background so much. But let me know what you guys think, man. Like, I mean, even on the whole idea of tough guys in rugby, like, do you feel like maybe the guys now aren't as tough as the guys? And I do tend to agree. They're not nearly as tough, but I think they're better athletes. I mean, anybody who's seen Cheslin Colby or, you know, without a shirt on, that guy's like a solid muscle. that man plays rugby for a living. That's how he pays his bills, you know. But at the same time, do you feel like we kind of gave away to maybe softening these guys up a bit? Do you think maybe it's a TMO issue? You guys let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Obviously, the URC is still going and alive and strong as our Springbok players have all looked to make their way back to their respective URC teams after an 0-4 weekend of friggin' disappointment. Couldn't even make a post video about that because I was so bloody upset. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think? Is it a good idea to allow these tussles to continue in games? Or do you think, hey, maybe you think there should be fighting in rugby? Do you think, hey, set them off to the side and let them duke it the frick out? I think the difference is with hockey, obviously, we have all this equipment on. You don't really have too much equipment in rugby, so there's going to be broken noses, which for Quagga Smith, or Franco Mustard, it probably wouldn't be too noticeable. Yeah, they're busted noses. But you get what I'm saying. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Tomorrow is the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. I will be heading with Jess and the lady dog up to Medill, Oklahoma. It's a lovely town. Should be fairly okay weather. I think the high tomorrow is supposed to be like 16, 17. It is fall here in the U.S. So, yeah, I hope everybody has a good rest of their week, and we will talk this weekend about URC. Cheers, guys.